Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the IOL PowerPoint presentation for Life Orientation Life Skills. On the screen, you will see my contact details. It says the Hilka Nangula. The contact number is very clear, 081-273-2204. The email address is also given, hilka.nangula@gmail.com. The contact hours, you cannot just call anytime. There are also other things, only not students, but we are welcome to call at 8 o'clock in the morning, that's now weekdays, until 20 hours. Or on Saturdays, try to call me. You can start calling us from 9 o'clock. I think 8 is too early for a Saturday, and then 8 o'clock. I shall attend to your calls. I didn't put Sunday there. Sunday is more a family day. Welcome to the presentation of Life Orientation and Life Skill for Semester 2. Take note, all chapters in this module are equally important, but more emphasis will be put on certain areas where students have difficulties. In the past, we had some difficulties with students who could not reach us because we don't have classes anymore. But then we came up with this kind of mode so that at least you have time to come and present and ask all your questions, and we shall attend to them. So please use this opportunity. For now, I would like to give you an overview of these study units. Yes, like I say, look at this presentation as an exam scope. We cannot tell you really study only these ones, but concentrate more on these main points. First here, at point number 1, we have the concept of religion. Now, when questions like this are posted to you, when you see them in assignments or when you see them in exams, what is religion? First of all, concentrate on the kind of verbs. Do they say you should describe? Do you have to list the kind of religions in Namibia? Do you have to explain maybe what is it that the people really want? And before I go further, I would also like to say, look also to the number of marks allocated. Look how the marks are allocated. Are they giving too much for little points and so on? What I mean here is, if they give, for instance, 10 points or 10 marks, then you cannot just mention 3 things and expect to get a lot of marks. Or why would you waste your time to write a whole page if you can only obtain 5 marks? The second point here, the most practiced religions in Namibia. Usually there are 5 or 6. If you look, usually they give 5 or 6 marks. You only mention them. There is no discussion. But should the question say discuss or explain, then you follow what is requested from you. Do not panic. Just do and write what you know. Then we go to the role of religion in society. Mostly at this point they ask, what role do religious leaders do in a society? For instance, praying for people, preaching to them, solving problems, and many others, their role. Now, on this presentation, it's just say their role. Now, it's for you to find out what exactly is needed, what do they want, what does the question request from me. Then you have to, if they say list, then you list the role. But usually it's a discussion point. because you cannot really list. Then you discuss religious leaders are helping or working for the communities or in the communities doing the following things. Then you mention how they look after the sick, how they give counseling to people, how they give donation to the poor. Some church also liaise with our organization, and then they do what they have to do. Then we come to gender roles in a family. Of course, you have the module going to read what they ask for gender roles. Gender roles in a family is what are the men expected to do, what do the women do, how do they share the daily chores, and so on, who's responsible for what. Please, people, read. You'll find that sometimes they ask you to mention the facts. Maybe they would say mention 9 facts or characters or whatever, and then discuss 3. The others you just mention, but if you just mention while you were asked to discuss, there's no way how you can obtain marks. Gender roles in a family. Just see what is requested and then answer accordingly. Disagreeing assertively with someone. For you to be able to answer this question, you first have to know what is assertiveness. What does it mean to be assertive? Think of making your point without violating other people's rights. You don't have to offend people to get you to make your way through. Assertiveness, you just tell you exactly, I don't want this, I'm not happy about this and this, but you do it in such a way that you don't offend others. Disagreeing assertively. Now, if you have to give the points of assertiveness, sometimes they give 2, let's say for instance, it's only 6 points, but then they give 12 marks. Of course, you have to say more to be able to get or to gain those 12 marks. The 10 commandments in the Torah. What is the Torah? What 10 commandments are there? What are the things that people have to do, and what is the Torah? First of all, you find out what is the Torah. Of course, if you look in here, they talk about the Jews, the Jewish people. Where do they come together? What do we call the Jewish leaders? What is the Torah? You should be able to tell us also what the Torah is. And after that, then you also have to be able to tell what the commandments are. What is written? What is laid out there? Go on and go step by step. Start early and get all these things and understand them. The importance of our emotions and feelings. What are emotions? What are feelings? Work on this one also. The importance. Why are they important? How should we handle them? If you are angry, the whole world cannot just be red because you are angry. Let us try to control our feelings. Now the question is, find out how will you control that? How will you balance it? How will you work in such a way that you don't overrule the rights of others? Importance of our emotions and feelings. How do you feel? How do you also take other people's feelings in consideration? It actually go about that. And then we have a win-win attitude among people. What is it? How does it look like? Win-win attitude is like, let's say people are involved in they have a disagreement. Or let's say you are in a class because we are preparing for ourselves to be teachers, and in the class you have to work in such a way that if you are solving a dispute in your class, other kids will not feel left out. Work in such a way that it's difficult to satisfy all of them, and the win-win thing. And there are also some characteristic traits that you have to have as a person who's working as a middleman. It means when you go to your module, you're going to look about all those win-win. What is it? what does the people do, and what must I do to be on the women's side. On this following slide, they talk about the negative consequences of substance use. What are these? They refer to alcohol, for instance. What are the things that can follow after you are, like you have been intoxicated, you have drank so much, or you have used drugs, or many other stuff that I did not name here. What are the consequences after you have drink? What problems can you cause? If it's solutions, I don't think. Or after the alcohol, you have been drinking so heavily. Think about these things and be ready to list them or to discuss them. This will be more a discussion point. And this question appears so many times in almost in every question. People who are usually drunk cannot control their vehicle. They are using bad language. They are fighting. They are uncontrollable. Look at all those many things. And also drugs abuse and so on. Of course, there are very, very good points in the module I've seen, but it will not prevent you to discuss also using your own words, as long as it's understandable, as it makes sense. Sometimes they even say students have to explain out of their own, not experiences, I will not say experience of drunk, but they should also use their own words and own judgment to talk about the substances used and consequences. What are the things that follows after you have used the alcohol and then the drugs? Preventing the spread of HIV. As a teacher, I will not say a parent, as a teacher, okay, a parent also, but in a school situation, what are the possible things that a teacher will do to teach the learners or to make them aware of the spread of HIV, and how can this be prevented? All those many things, should be mentioned. For instance, use a condom, safe sex, those many other things. How will you make your kids aware, or your learners, to prevent the spread of AIDS? All those things of stick to one partner and so on and so on. Please look into it and get acquainted with the whole module before we start even with the assignments and your exam. The values that should be taught to our children. Yes, education is very important. Poverty, many other things can attack or can be in the way of our kids. Can be in a way of our kids. So we talk about what values are important. For instance, kids should be very, very honest. They should have a good education. You must tell them also how to behave amongst other people. All those things. Let's take a look and see how we can teach our kids to be better educators or better parents. All those are the values. The focus here is on the value, or why is it important. What healthy eating habits or healthy lifestyle look like? This is also another point of discussion. What should people eat? What kind of lifestyle should people live out to be healthy people? Don't eat too much, otherwise you are obese, too fat, and then too many fat people, I'm talking about obese now, cannot really be healthy. Eat healthy food. Know when is your eating time. Guard yourself against diseases, high blood pressure, many other things. There are so many points under this one. Please, people, look into this one also and see the different lifestyle you can follow, or the kind of eating, different healthy eating habits, not only for you, but how will you teach your kids about all this. The steps involved in drawing up a budget, very, very important. What is a budget? Why is it important? Who should use a budget? How early or how late should people draw up a budget? How possible, how can the budget solve some problems? When can this work? Because without a budget, we cannot go anywhere. And this one, go over, it works together with the next point, which is saving, ways of saving money. Yes, if you don't have a budget, how will you save money? Because if you have a budget, you already tell yourself that I'm going to set to put this amount apart, or I'm putting this amount away, the other one that I'm using to my family or to myself or to pay accounts, only when a budget is drawn up. Actually, I prefer, or I think it's preferable, it's okay if you write the points of a budget in a correct way. For instance, point 1 should be point 1 and point 2 and so on, working on a budget. How will you spend? Taking, for instance, about your income, take first your income and then your expenses, start somewhere. You cannot just write a budget out of a blue, but life will be in order if there's a budget. We have the advantages and the disadvantages of loans. What are loans? Who can take out a loan? Loan comes always with advantages. For instance, it can solve your problems quickly. Yes, there are some disadvantages. If it's after a very long time, it's always in your way and you want to finish up. And if you take too long, people will start calling you, or always phone calls, please come and pay, honor your payments or your debts and whatever. People will always, so there are advantages and disadvantages. And it can be also long time or short time. So it means the students I'm talking about now, in this case, you should know all this first, list all the advantages and disadvantages. And please do not mix the two. If possible, a table will do. On one side, you put the advantages, and on the other side, the disadvantages. If they are mixed, it makes it very, very difficult for the marker, and also for the person himself, and it also takes up time. Please make a table, or mention the advantages first and the disadvantages later, or vice versa. But don't mix them. Handling conflict positively. What will you do if there's a conflict? Now, you remember we are preparing here to go work with the little ones, to go work with the students, to go, not really little ones, but to see how best possible we can help them. How can we solve a conflict? How can we be a middleman? What is a conflict? Which side, can we take side in a conflict? No. So acquaint yourself on how, with all those possible points, on how you will solve a conflict, or on how you will teach your kids to solve their own conflicts. There's also another page here. How humans are different from animals. Okay, this is also important, but let's go. I cannot elaborate on every point. This one you can just read also as well. Here we talk about humanness or humanity. What is humanness? What is it to be? I mean, what's a definition when you talk about humanness or humanity? What is it? You should be able to define. When I talk about define, sometimes you find that in a definition there is only 1 mark allocated, or sometimes they allocate 2 marks. So just see, how will I define this? And let me give you a tip. Please concentrate always on the key points. On the key points. What is it exactly? Values that can be incorporated in the Namibian laws. What laws are there? Know all the laws, but here remember we talk only about Namibia, not the whole world's law. Which laws, which values can be incorporated in Namibian laws? Find out, read more, make a small summary, and acquaint yourself with what's written there in our laws. They are a bit lengthy though. Then we have the examples of negative social behavior. When is a person negative? When do you behave negative? Whenever you behave, or whenever persons behave in such a way that the others feel offended, or when the other feel out, then obvious you people are behaving negatively. This is social behavior. It means that cannot be done by one person only. Talk about social. How do you behave among other people? Let's look. First, you find out what are positive behavior, then negative social behaviors, and how they can be solved. Then we have the advantages and disadvantages of loans. We have just talked about that. Development, emotional intelligence of learners, yes. How can we develop this in learners? How can we bring it out? It's obvious that parents that usually say bad things about learners or about kids, they give them names. They don't give them credit where it is due now. Those learners will never be positive in their life. We talk about emotional intelligence. Teach the kids honesty and teach them all the other things that can make them positive. It's a development. How do you contribute to the intelligence of the learners? What are the things that you have to do? What are the things that you have to work on? If you are positive with your learners, of course, they follow in your steps. Then we have the main domain of emotional intelligence. All those, once you are at that intelligence chapter, you look one by one, you look at the domain, you look about the development, you look about the advantages of working with these kids to make them more positive so that they are not only negative towards people and towards life. Then we have the effects of competence, performance, and professional conduct of teachers teaching. What is this? This is now just about the teacher. Competence. How competent are you? Do you know your content? Do you really be called a teacher? And don't forget, a teacher is the mother of all professions. A teacher could be a nurse sometimes. Teachers don't only come for the class, teaching and then go home. But are you really competent? Can you also help outside your class, but in the school perimeter or in the school environment? The performance. People look at teachers' performances. Do the kids pass? Do they learn something from your class? Do they appreciate what you are teaching them? Are you really making them better people? And so on. For instance, sometimes we only focus on teaching. People forget about the little things like kids have to be, for instance, in a queue. They have to be quiet in their class and many other things. Those are professionalism. How do you conduct yourself? How do you behave amongst others? How do you behave in front of the kids? How do you dress yourself? All those are professionalism. Your language, do you swear in class? Look at all those things and see how you can present them once you are asked for them. Conduct on the teacher's teaching. How is your teaching? Every second word is a swear word. Then I don't know how would that class look like. Please go through all these things. Are very, very important. You do not know how the assignment or the exam comes out. Never. So acquaint yourself with whatever. Start early so you can go through your book and discuss whatever. How learners should follow school rules. What are school rules? Who draw up the school rules? How often, how do you discuss or how do you bring forth the school rules? Do you discuss with them? Do you paste them in class everywhere? Do you, for instance, make copies for learners to take them home for the parents? Do you discuss them every day? And so on. How learners should follow school rules. That is also a very important point that cannot be left out. The negative consequences of ignoring values, laws, and rules. Negative consequences, what is that? What will happen to a person if he does not follow the rules? If you go over the red light, what do you think will happen? If you find people, you are drunk and you start beating them, that is not a consequence of ignoring the values, laws, and rules. If they say do not enter, then you should not enter. If they say this is only for the staff, then it's only for the staff. Many other things. We always see different signs wherever in life, whether it's at the ATM, whether it is at the church, at the shop, everywhere. There are values or there are laws and there are rules everywhere. But once people don't abide by the rules, they know what the consequences are. So negative consequences, go also through those. Precautions, measures to prevent teenage pregnancies. What is teenage pregnancy? How does it occur? How can it be prevented? So this is now, that is a broad one, because we have teenagers in school, we have teenagers that are dropouts, we have teenagers everywhere. So precautions, measures to prevent teenage pregnancy. How will you tell your learners or students not to fall prey to this one? What will you do? How will you explain it? And what measures can they really take? So all these things should be followed to have a better adults. Then, general topics. There are topics that are just general. Excuse me, my nose, I don't know, it's itching, I'm sorry. General topics. We have crime, we have corruption, we have self-confidence, bullying, problem solving in general, and time management. What are these now? All these topics need to get attention. None of this one can be none of this one can be left out. Crime is everywhere. Crime is in school, crime is in taxis, crime is in buses, crime is on street, crime is in shop, everywhere. And then corruption. How will we prevent corruption? Corruption can start any place. It can start at home also and amongst our learners. For instance, a learner asking another learner to do or to write a test for him and pay him, that's also bribe. And pay him, maybe buy him a lolly or whatever, that's corruption already. And then self-confidence, what is it? Mostly these are general topics, but mostly they come under definition. They'll ask you, define what is crime, or define corruption, or define confidence, bullying. Any of these you can be asked to define them. Or maybe to write a difference between the two. Maybe how will enhance self-confidence in kids, for instance, and so on. Problem solving in general. What is problem solving? How can they benefit our students, and so on? Is time management important? Yes, it is important. Without time management, I don't know how will this world be. When you go to your work, you think about what time you should be there. And then when people are eating, there's also time. That's why we have breakfast, lunch, and then we have dinner. So dinner time, you cannot come at 4 o'clock and say, I'm here for lunch. No, there's time for everything. Time management is very, very important. And usually people look very, very bad to you, very bad at you if you don't follow time, if you don't manage your time properly. It's fine. It is okay. People give respect. They always give you respect if you are always on time. Always, always. Let us be on time. Time management, how do you manage your time? It's not only about going to work or going to places, or think about other things. All those notes are written, but in short, let's think about time on task. Do you do what you have to carry out on time? Here I want to include also the assignments. If you start late, then your assignment is not in order. Either it's not typed, things are not in order, the font is not all right, letters are left out, you didn't really express yourself the way you wanted to because it's late, you just have to rush. Please, time management, very important, read through it. In conclusion, I want to say these few words, very, very important to all of you students. Please prepare thoroughly for the examination. Revise all the units and their learning outcomes. Take note of all the action verbs. What do I mean here? And I make it very, very dark. Why? If they say list, then you list. If you are told to describe, you cannot list and expect to get all those marks. If they tell you make a comparison, then you compare. Like I said, do not mix the things if you really want to get good marks. Just follow what, if they say define, then you cannot write the whole page for only 3 marks. You are wasting your time and you are wasting the time of the marker. You should have an understanding of each verb and answer precisely what is asked. Please, in your module, I don't know exactly what page, but somewhere in the beginning, the first 5 pages there, you're going to find all these action verbs. What is list? What is describe? What is this? Find out so that when the exam comes, you are not going to scratch your head only. Utilize your experience as a teacher or student teacher, and please do not leave any question unattended or unanswered. You never know. You might think, let me leave this one. I don't know the answer, but give it a guess. Try it out. Just see, even if you write general knowledge, who knows? If it's unattended, it just gives a negative connotation. It's like you don't care or something. Just try to write something. I'm not saying just write well anything, but just try to see, to construct something there and put something, jot something down for your answer. Don't leave it unanswered. We have come to the end of this presentation. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.